Hello and welcome back to the Fragmented podcast. I am TrickyMist and this is episode 3. Now in today's podcast we are going to be talking about camping. I have a few stories that go along with the camping idea. And now I do want to explain what I think camping is. I know there's a lot of people that would interpret it a little bit different than what I would call camping. But anyways, for me, camping is like where you're away from the house and you're just like kind of like in a wooded scenery and like a forest type of thing with like a group of people or like individuals, and it's pretty much just there just to have fun. And now I know some people are thinking, Tricky, what if I'm like in a hotel and there's like woods and there's like a lot of people and stuff? Is that camping? No. That is not camping. But normally we always end up having like campfires at the end of the night and things like that, like doing s'mores, like the usual. And so I honestly yeah, like used to be in Boy Scouts whenever I was younger. I even had like a school trip where we went on like a kind of like a camping trip for like a few days out of town, and was at this conservation camp. It was like one of those things that you could like purchase to go there, and it was just like a lot of fun actually. And it was just like with the schoolmates and stuff like that. And you honestly could like say I want to be with these people and people I don't want to be with, and like they had this listing thing going on for this conservation camp. And so I think they either did like 6 people per room or 8 people. And I do vaguely remember what the rooms were. Like they had bunk beds, so I was at the top bunk in the corner of the room. And I essentially had like you know how in schools they had the popular kids, and they had like those different like little groups in the school, and you could automatically identify them just by looking at them and how they act. And so I pretty much had the popular kids. I had like I think I remember majority of their names. I had a guy named Patrick, a person named Drew, Matt, Jacob, Josh, Kyle, and I think Curtis. And then there was me, so 8 people. And it was just like so much fun. Like it, like I do remember back then I like tried writing down like everything that was so much fun on that trip, and I can't remember where I put it, but I was trying to do like a coloring book with it. But honestly, I did not continue writing every single like little thing in it. I think I only wrote in it like 2 or 3 days out of the thing. Actually, no, I think we were there for 5 days. But it was just so much fun. Regardless, I know I always wanted to go back to it, but it just costed too much money. I think it was like, back then, it was like, full week was like $300. And whenever you're like 12 or 13 years old, there's no way of getting that unless you beg your parents. But I know I definitely did not. But I know I definitely wanted to. I like to go back to it because it was just a lot of fun. They were like teaching us life lessons of like things that you should do if you're out camping, and things that you shouldn't do. And it was kind of like a place where like a DNR was pretty much like leading you around and like teaching you random things. Like for example, we had this like weird lesson that they gave us. They're like, all right guys, so they had 3 groups. One group was like our like part of our school, another group was a different school, and like so on. So 3 different schools with like groups of like 10, maybe like 15 people. And then they handed like chips to these random people, and they said, all right, now what I want you to do is take the chips that I just gave you guys and like just spread it out in this like circle area. And there's like a nice open area, and he's like, I'll explain what the chips are afterward. So these people, like I think I had the yellow chips, and so back then I was like, I know, I'm gonna like put these in like spots that aren't already covered. So we spread it out kind of like a minefield, and he's like, all right, so today's lesson is when all right, so like when you're out in the woods, like a lot of people, whenever you're camping, there's like outhouses, but if you don't have that, what exactly do you do? And people would raise their hand and be like, you would probably have to go to the bathroom outdoors. And he's like, exactly. Now, this exercise is like the chips around here. There's the yellow ones for taking a number one, and then the other one was for taking a number two. And now the chips that are spread out is all these. And imagine like you guys just packed up and left for that like first group. Now the second group comes in, and now they have this minefield. And now essentially you want to think smart of where you want to like do your business, and be sure not to leave a mess for the next group. And that's pretty much like how the lesson went. And I was just like, why? It was just so random. I think he even said that we were like bears. to make it not as weird. Like he's like, all right, so this first group is bears, and they're just gonna start doing their business, like dropping everything. And now the next group is just gonna be like campers that want to set up their thing, and now they have this huge mess that they gotta like clean up, or they might just have to move to a different spot. And it was just like lessons like that. Like they're just so like, some of them were bizarre, others were like, all right, this makes sense. Some that we'll definitely have to do sometime in the future. Like I do remember the next, like one of the other lessons was like how to start a campfire. Now they gave us like a bag of stuff, and they put us in groups of just random people from different schools, a lot of people that we didn't really know, or people that we didn't really talk to. And they were just like, all right, so you guys don't know each other, so this will be like a good team building exercise for you guys, because you guys will always have to like learn to work with other people. And this is like one of those goals that you guys can actually like work towards. And so the main objective of this is to start a fire. And like it was on a small scale, because like they gave us a few twigs, a few like kindling, one match, one bottle cap that had like the inside where you could like strike the match, and you essentially had to get the fire going. And then once you had that all like good to go, then you could go off to lunch. So we tried. It was like, so outside during that day was like super wet out. Like it was raining out in the morning, so everything was wet around us, and we had to find a dry spot. And so they struck the match. They started like the kindling, and you know how like in those like survival shows where you honestly had you had those like guys, like those survival guys that were like, all right, now when there's embers on the kindling, you want to like slowly blow on it, and like it would like build up the fire and stuff like that. So I do remember one of us like blowing on it to try and get like the embers going, and like heating it up even more and getting that fire going even better. So do not do that. Does not work unless you're really good at it, because the moment that someone did it, fire gone. It was just gone. It didn't even last that long, and it was just so ridiculous. And I even remember there was a final day like competition, and the competition was how to use a compass. And they would give us like so it was a time course, and they had everyone from every school that was like there at the time. They gave us a compass. There was like groups of 4, and you had to get these like hole punches. Like you got a card, and you had to like punch like 5 or 6 holes in it, and then like the final destination would be back at the like main building. And then they would like time you, and they would be like, all right, time stop, your time is this, congratulations. And so they even had like different scales for like how hard you wanted it to be. You could do like easy, normal, or really hard. And based off of that, it was kind of like a competition from like school to school to school, and just to see who is faster at doing this type of stuff. And so I remember messing up on the thing, and there's some people like being cheap about it. They're like trying to follow other groups with it, and sometimes it wasn't really working. There was like a lot of moments where it didn't really work at all. But I do kind of remember it probably took us about like 50 minutes to actually do it, because like at one point we thought it was this direction, but we went the wrong way. And like the way on how he had to do the thing was, let's say 89 degree, like I guess 89 degrees to the right, and he had to walk so many meters and then take a left so many, like at a different direction. It was like those types of things, and it was just it was ridiculous on trying to like navigate it. And if you messed up in the very beginning, like first step, of course you're not going to find any of the other hints to like go back to the place. And it was just so silly. Like even like the clues and stuff were like hanging on trees with like little hole stamps, and if you did it correctly, they would know exactly what kind of stamp you want, like needed for each of these cards. And there was a few people that cheated, and they're like, nope, you're not gonna be on this leaderboard. But good try. But it was all pretty much just for fun, to be completely honest. um and let's see, I know back in like Boy Scouts, there was like this one, like there's like a military like old camp thing, and the Boy Scouts had like rented it out for the weekend, and we got to stay in like kind of like a bunker area, I believe. I can't really remember correctly on where we were like sleeping for like the nights, but we had like morning, afternoon, and evening activities. But at night we could walk around until like 11:30 ish or something like that. So anyways, I remember there being a building, and I was walking around with my younger brother, a guy named Josh, and May. I can't remember who was the third person, but it was just four of us walking around. And we, like, I seen this guy. There was another guy from like a different troop, and he was walking down this hallway. And so imagine like a long hallway, there's like stairs off to your left, and so he would walk down this hallway like straight in front of us. He would take a left, and then a few seconds later he'd be coming down the stairs from our left. So the other three guys were like, hey guys, let's go follow him and see how in the world he did that. So he just starts walking down the hallway again. He like takes a little glance back, and then he turns the corner. A few seconds later, he's back down at the staircase, and I was like the only one that didn't follow them. And I just sat there and I was like, how? And he's like, oh, I ran. But I think I gave your friends the slip. And so instead of going back down that hallway, he took the other hallway that was behind the staircase. And it was just so ridiculous. I was like, how in the world? And so then a few minutes passed, and the three people came back. They're like, man, where on earth did this guy go? And I was like, oh, apparently he ran, and he went down that hallway, and I pointed in the direction. They're like, huh, because he didn't make any sound when he was running. So it was like a ninja at that point, just running down this hallway in like the dark. And then after that, even our like friend named Josh, he actually ended up finding something. We went out of like some like doors, like building doors outside, and there's this random hoodie like sitting by this tree. And so Josh, he sat there, he walked up to it, and he's like, who on earth would leave a hoodie out here, let alone in the dark? Like, you couldn't even see that far ahead of you unless you had like a flashlight or something. And so he picked up this hoodie. There's like no one around, it was dead quiet out, and he's just like, maybe there's something in the pocket. Checks the pocket. It actually had money in it. He found like 2 or maybe 3 20s, and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm rich. Takes the money. I was like, what? But yeah, no, he ended up he ended up sorry about that. Cat was doing something. She still is. But he ended up just getting even richer from that camping trip. But we like back in Boy Scouts, we used to do like a lot of things. I still remember doing s'mores like every weekend, or not every weekend, every night. Everyone had s'more supplies. That was like one of the main things that people would always bring is just like graham crackers, Hershey bar, marshmallows, and that's all you really needed. And then they said if you want s'mores, you got to sharpen up your own stick and like roast your own marshmallow. So like usual, we would always sharpen up our sticks and roast these marshmallows. A lot of ours always ended up being burnt, just because that was like the quickest way to like cook them. But there were some nights like on those trips where we actually ended up doing bonfires and doing some skits. And the skits were like kind of like I guess a lot of them were like playing. They're like really classics. Like one of them is like I'll probably mess it up, but if you guys ever end up seeing it, you'll get the idea. So the one skit I do end up remembering is like a classic. It was honestly like, everyone was sitting on these bleachers, and then this troop would be like talking about it, trying to like get it all like figured out within like the set time frame. And this guy would like appear underneath the light post, and he'd be just looking down, and he'd be like, "Man, where is it? Where is this dollar?" And they're like, "A dollar." He's like, "Hey, can some of you guys come over here and help me?" They're like, "Sure. What exactly are you looking for?" As like, I'm looking for this dollar and I just can't find it." And they're like, "Oh, all right, I'll help you." So then they keep looking, they bring in more and more people to like look for it underneath this light post. And they're like, where on earth did you drop it? Because we're not seeing it here." And he's like, "Oh, I dropped it like way over there." And they're like, "What?" So we're looking underneath the light post, and he's like, "Yeah, because it's bright out. Over there it's just too dark." Like, oh. But it was just like skits like that. Like there's an Oscar Mayer Wiener one, and like random things along those lines. It was just so much fun back then. Even like the bonfire honestly was just like it took a while to get there. Mosquitoes were bad. It was cold out and kind of windy, but once you got there, you had to take off the sweatshirt almost immediately. And one of the major things why is because the bonfire was so big that the heat that was coming off of the fire, like if you're standing 20 feet away from the bleachers, like further back, you could still feel the heat. So sitting on there, it's like you were just like frying. And so I do remember taking off the sweatshirt, and then it was kind of like the main like troop leader was like just talking about random things. It was just like random things that we probably did earlier that day, and it was kind of like a meeting. But overall, lots and lots of fun. And then even on this I used to go on these yearly trips with a friend and like his family for like quite a time whenever I was much younger. Like we used to go to the state park. It was like a park that was underneath the DNR or like organization where they preserve the nature and stuff like that and keep it like going, like where it's like we don't really affect the wooded area and stuff like that. And so there was like a few times where we got to see some things that we probably wouldn't be able to see in some other years. Like for example, there was a snapping turtle that we seen. It had like a nest on the side of the road, and it was just like so ridiculous that we got to see a snapping turtle like dig its hole and like have eggs underneath the hole. And so my friend was like, we have to go tell the people that like run this camp that there's these eggs here, and who knows, maybe someone might try and like take it or like stomp on them. Told them about it. They obviously moved the eggs to like a different location just because snapping turtles on a lake that a lot of people go swimming at is definitely not one of those things that you want to have at a state park. So we told them about it. We were protecting it. There were cars driving left and right by it, and we're just like, we are gonna guard these eggs. And then like the next day they were gone. Even like near like where those eggs were, there was a bridge. There was like a little stream that went to another lake, and my friend would always want to like go wading like in the stream. It would be about like waist deep, and like most of the parts, sometimes it would go up to the chest, and a lot of the time we would have to go swimming down the stream. And so there was one day, like one year, I remember we were like walking down the stream, and we got to see a beaver swim. And there was a beaver dam down the stream, and this beaver was swimming from these tall grass, came out of nowhere, about 5 feet in front of us, ignored us, swam to the beaver dam, and just went into the beaver dam. And I was like, I do not, I'm not going by that beaver dam. He's like, come on, the beaver's harmless. I was like, have you seen their teeth? They can like cut the wood. The wood just chomping on it. And he's like, no, that's not that threatening. I was like, are you kidding me? So then eventually we ended up going past the beaver dam, and luckily for us, the beaver never did come out, because my friend, whenever we went on those trips, he's like, I want to do stuff that probably doesn't make any sense, but hey, it might be kind of funny. And it was just like a lot of things like that. Like there was even one year I remember waking up super early, and I walked over, like I went on like a little hiking thing, went by the lake, and it was kind of like an overview of the lake. And you know how like there's like some fish activity where you could see like little ripples here and there on like a calm lake where it's just like no wind, no nothing, and you could see all these fish like having fun, probably going after insects on the lake. And there's this one I remember, it was kind of like a long stream, kind of like a snake almost on like the surface of the water. And then next thing you know, like there was so much activity in the water, but there was like a bigger like activity in the middle of the lake. Next thing you know, the whole lake just went silent. There was nothing else like coming up to the surface. And I remember telling my friend Nate about this, and he's like, oh, it was probably a sturgeon. I was like, sturgeon? What the hell is that? He's like, you know how muskies are like a meter, maybe like meter and a half long on this lake, or maybe even 2 meters? I was like, yeah. Sturgeons are like much bigger than that. They have the ability to tip the canoe that we're at, like in, or the rowboat. I was like, whoa, I'm not gonna go towards the middle of the lake. He's like, come on, we like even if it like tipped all of our stuff into it, we can easily swim back. I was like, nope, I'm not going through the middle. He was just in there like trying to psych me out, and I was just like, yeah, no, definitely not. 100%. And he was just like flipping out about like the whole thing. And I was just like, there ain't no way, like if there is an actual sturgeon in that lake, there's no way I'm just gonna be like going like, yeah, let's go try and get our like boat flipped by this big thing that like made the whole lake silent for like a few hours. Yeah, let's definitely go poke the bear with a stick type of thing. But like there was just like so many moments at that lake. I remember it so clearly, like some of these moments that like really stick out. So one year, just like any time that we go there, we always end up doing this thing where we have to go rent out this canoe. And like they have this rental station, you like fill out an envelope, you put money in it, and then you put it into the slot. Then you can take the canoe out for X amount of days. So we sat there, got the canoe, put it into the water, and then brought it back to our campsite. And as soon as we got out of like the shallow water, we looked down and there was a dead musky like body. And the body, like for fish, they tend to get like white, so you can kind of see them from the surface. And it was so long. It was ridiculous. It was probably like one of the longest muskies out of that lake, in about like 5 or 6 like feet of like water. It was just so ridiculous. They're like, yeah, they it was so popular. Like that muskie alone was so famous or infamous in the lake that they actually had a name for it. They said, yeah, it passed away like a week ago. I was like, oh my gosh, there ain't no way. There ain't no way. And at the time it was musky mating season, so you got to see like a lot of muskie around the lake, like in the shallow ends. Usually they were in the deeper end, so you don't really see them that often. And on one of our like fishing days, we started canoeing. This was back whenever I was like pretty well fit, like where I could actually do a lot of like physical activity for like a long period of time without ever really getting tired. And so I always ended up having to like row the boat or like doing most of the paddling because my friend didn't really like doing that. And so I remember like, so there are 2 streams to this lake. The one that we seen the beaver on, and then another one that went to a smaller lake up the way. The other stream went to a much bigger lake. But we went to the other stream, and it's so much nicer in the other one. Like clearer water, clearer everything. So we went up there and we seen these 2 muskie. They were about maybe like 2, oh no, they were pretty big. Like the canoe itself, they were probably like a third of the length of the canoe, swimming like just like maybe a foot underneath the canoe itself. They were just completely ignoring us because they knew for sure they could definitely take out the canoe if they wanted. I was just like, oh man, they're just not intimidated like at us at all. And so we literally followed them into the stream. They were just like going up the stream on their merry way. And honestly, the way on how they were acting, I think I think it was a couple, and they were going up the stream, and I think they were trying to go to the smaller lake to maybe that was like the breeding ground or something like that for the fish. I'm not entirely sure. So they went up to they went up the stream, and so we followed them because they were like maybe this might lead to something. It might just be like a fun like thing just to go watch. But so we followed them, and next thing you know, we went to this like the murkiest part of the lake or of the stream. Made it up there, and there was another muskie sitting there. And so out of the 2 that were going upstream, one of them like sat there, and then I think the bigger one swam forward to the other one, and it went from like clear water to instantly murky. They were having a fight, the 2 muskies. I think they were fighting over the one fish, and it was just crazy. It was so insane. Like the one that lost the battle, like the one that we seen had a bite mark out of its side, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I know huskies have like sharp teeth. They have like super sharp teeth, and I've always wanted to catch one, but I've never actually gone about trying to get one. Like I know there's a specific lake that only like it's kind of like a musky farm or something like that, and I know where it's at, but I've just never actually gone there. But yeah, there was man, there's just like so many moments. Like honestly, camping is just so much fun. Like you could do so many things on like a camping trip. But honestly speaking, out of all the camping trips, there's always been something that's been true for me, and I just have no way of like really explaining why this is. So for me personally, whenever I go on camping trips, I always end up with like some sort of cut. By cut, I mean like even on the Boy Scout trips, like I think conservation camp, I never actually got a cut, but it'd always be some random cut on like my hand, and I couldn't ever like really explain why or how or however, you know. And it was just so ridiculous. Like I remember one day whenever I got up from a Boy Scout like just like morning, and so one day I had this big old cut. Like it went from like top of my thumb all the way down to my side, and I was just like, how in the world? Like we didn't even have like any pocket knives in the tents or anything. We had that like in a container like outside somewhere, and I would wake up with these cuts all the time, and it just really made no sense. Even on my last camping trip with my friend, I had this burning sensation on my leg, and it was a massive cut. I honestly don't think I can actually show it, but I do have a mark of it. So it's like about like 3.5 inches long, or like 4 inches, and it's like this weight mark that goes like right above where my sock was, all the way down to like that like little ball on your foot, not like the bottom, but like the side, you know. And it was just it just seems like so weird that I always get like random like little cuts here and there from like camping. And honestly, it's kind of scary, but not really. I'm not like I really have no way of explaining on why it happens, but it always ends up happening on like a lot of things related to camping. And I know it was always true like whenever it was for Boy Scouts, because it would always happen every night. And I would just like look at my hands, I'll be just like, how on earth? Like I thought at first maybe I woke up and maybe it was like sleepwalking, and I maybe like cut myself with my own pocket knife. So I would hand my pocket knife to one of the leaders, and I would be like, can you hang on to this for tonight? They're like, sure. Next night it would happen again. And it's just like one of those things where I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy that this happens. But yeah, so who knows on how to really explain that. But anyways, that's pretty much just like a few camping stories that I have. I hope you guys all enjoy the camping stories. I do have a few ideas that I might do sometime in the future for podcasts. I know there's one type of like thing I do remember that might be kind of interesting to have in a future podcast. And that's being like, you know how people make mistakes. There's like a few mistakes that I personally remember that I made, and maybe you guys can like rate them on how bad they were and stuff like that. But I don't know, we'll think about that one specifically. But anyways, that'll just have to do it for today's episode. And this will be like the first episode that's actually ever made it up to 30 minutes. But we are slowly getting up there to try and get the podcast up to like an hour long. And honestly, some people don't really realize how long it takes to actually make these recordings, because I like doing things all in one take. So if I mess up and it's like 20 minutes in, I'll just like scrap that whole recording, even though it's probably a bad thing to do it. And I'll pretty much just try it again until I get it all in one thing and stuff like that. I'm honestly like a perfectionist in that like manner. But yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in for today's podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more podcasts in the future. We are going to be trying to do this every week, possibly recording on Sunday nights or Monday evenings, and trying to get it uploaded around those 2 days. But yeah, so be sure to like the video, comment down below any other questions that you guys want to ask me, because I would not mind answering any questions on in the podcast, even if it's just random comments like, hey Tricky, I like your videos, or something like that. I'm I'm honestly not that good at video editing, so I can't really get the little clips with the actual username saying it. But maybe sometime in the future we can figure that out. Who knows? I'll probably just have to do some research on it. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. I guess I'll see you guys on the next one. We are going to be having a person joining us on episode 4. He is a Twitch streamer, and we are going to be leaving his link in the description in the next video. And we can just we can pretty much just leave it at that. So thank you guys for tuning in again, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Okay, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys then.